Hello, folks. Good evening, Erin Manette, and welcome. I'm going to call the regular meeting of the Nevada City Council to order. Today is Wednesday, May 8th, 2024, and it is 6:30 p.m. Vice Member Peterson, will you please read our tribal recognition?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'm sure my mic is on. We acknowledge that the Nisenan people are still here among us today, though nearly invisible. We understand that we are on Nisenan land that was never ceded, and the original tribal members have yet to recover from the near genocide of their people. As a resident or visitor in Nisenan land, we support the Nevada City Rancheria Nisenan tribe in efforts to stabilize their people, as well as their campaign to restore federal recognition.
Thank you so much, Vice Mayor. Councilmember Cece, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
My pleasure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Cece. Madam Deputy City Clerk, may I please have a roll call for the evening?
Yes, good evening. Councilmember Cece?
Here.
Councilmember Klein?
Here.
Councilmember Fleming? Here. Vice Mayor Peterson?
Here.
And Mayor Fernandez?
Yes, here. Thank
All
you so
members
much.
present.
Gabby. Adoption of the agenda. Council, now is the time for any agenda modifications. Would anyone like to make any changes to the agenda, pull consent items, or do we have any recusals to announce?
No,
All right. Thank you. I'm not hearing any, so I'm looking for a motion and a second to adopt the agenda.
I move we adopt the agenda as provided.
Second.
Great. I have a motion by Vice Mayor Peterson and a second by Councilmember Cece. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Excellent. Any opposed? Not hearing any. Motion carries. Thanks all. We have a couple of presentations this evening. The first is a in memoriam that I would like to read for all of you, honoring the life of David K. Bohegian. David K. Bohegian passed away peacefully with his loving wife, Pavana, and their family by his side on April 15th, 2024. He was 69 years old. Born on July 21st, 1954, Bohegian spent the 5 decades of his professional career in the real estate industry as a broker and certified appraiser. He co-founded MBC in 1984 and served as senior partner until his passing. Bohegian was married to his wife Pavana for 37 years. They had 3 children, Christopher, Alistair, and Zach, and made their family home on Spring Street, just right over here, a stone's throw from this back balcony of City Hall. He committed his time and money to countless community efforts and is listed along with his wife in the annual report of donors of dozens of local nonprofit organizations. He was an avid pickler, which means he played pickleball, and was a member of the Grass Valley Pickleball Club. Bohegian was appointed to the Nevada City Planning Commission in 2019 and served as a commissioner from March 2019 through July of 2020. He also served as a city council appointed member of the Nevada City Citizens Oversight Committee for both measures C and M from January of 2022 until his passing. With this in memoriam, the City Council of Nevada City honors the legacy of David K. Bohegian, recognizes his community efforts, and thanks him for his service to the city as a planning commissioner and oversight committee member. Thank you, David. And the second, a little more upbeat than that last one, it is National Public Works Week. And so we, of course, as Public Works super fans, have some things to say. Mr. Sean Grayson, would you please take it away?
Thank you, Mayor. Before you read the proclamation and hand it over to our wonderful crew members that are here this evening, I'd like to thank our small but mighty Public Works team. It's a little bigger than the 2 gentlemen that are here, but not much bigger than that. You know, they empty the garbage, clean City Hall, maintain the streets, keep our water and sewer pipes running, plow the snow, mow the lawns, and a million other things that nobody ever sees, but literally keep the city functioning, our almost 175-year-old city. Last night, a little after 5 p.m., I got an email from a concerned citizen about safety issues on one of the 3 remaining wooden sidewalks we have in town, the boardwalk sidewalks. And I sent an email back to the person last night and said we'd look into it this morning. By this morning, it was fixed before 7 a.m. and Public Works had already sent him an email saying, the person that sent the email, and their response was, "Thank you, very impressive response time to a situation that would have otherwise gone unnoticed." So we get things like that all the time. Another example is there was what was reported as either a spring or a private property water issue for the last 6 to 7 years. Not too far up the road here, recently a community member called and invited me to their house to take a look at its impacts. And so, of course, I brought our Public Works Superintendent Shane with me. And within a couple of days, he and the team identified and fixed that 6 or 7 year problem. And the card I got in the mail said, "Thank you for taking the time to come over and see the water issue we're dealing with, and thank you for putting Shane in charge of fixing it. He's truly fantastic at his job. We appreciate how he and his team are courteous and professional. We couldn't be happier." So our team does an amazing job at the myriad of details that they have to perform on any given day, and they're really good with the community. And that's always a challenge when something breaks. It's probably them that are going to fix it. It also means it's probably them that gets the short-term blame until they can get to talking to folks. So I couldn't be happier with our amazing team. So with that, I'd like to thank the council for recognizing our Public Works team, and I'll hand it back to you, Mayor, to read the proclamation and hand it off to David and Bob and Brian.
Hi, folks. Gentlemen, would you like to join me at the podium? Would that be all right?
Bob looks scared. Come on, Bob. Keep
Hello.
smiling.
So I have a little something to read you, and I just want to say, with that list that Sean read of things that you all do in this community, it's amazing to me every time I see you, you're smiling, all 3 of you. And that just makes me happy. I just like you as people. So here's a proclamation for National Public Works Week, and that is May 19th through the 25th, 2024. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Nevada City. And whereas these infrastructure facilities and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in the city of Nevada City to gain knowledge of and to maintain ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2024 marks the 64th annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association and the Canadian Public Works Association, and this year's theme is advancing quality of life for all. And whereas the dedicated team of Nevada City Public Works employees maintain the city's parks, roads, water and sewer infrastructure, facilities, get your booty up here. Facilities, equipment, and vehicles, and they plow snow, clean out storm drains, and generally keep our gem of the foothills shining. Now, therefore, be it resolved, now that Shane is here, that the City Council of the City of Nevada City hereby proclaim the week of May 19th through the 25th, 2024 as National Public Works Week, and urge all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and quality of life. Gentlemen, thank you so much.
Come on, Bob. Give us a speech, Bob.
I don't like to talk a lot, but
Really?
I'll make this short. I'm kidding. I'm
You
kidding.
sure do make some
I'm
noise.
full of it. So yeah, I couldn't do what I do without you, first of all, and then these guys. Having a like-minded crew, we love this town that we work in. And so my boss, I always think every day, is everybody with a 3-digit address. We try to make their problems, as small as they are, or as large as they are, our problems as well. And my favorite saying is, I'm only a phone call away. So, and meeting new people of this town every day. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
You
Shane.
want to hold the trophy? You want to hold the trophy?
I feel the same way about the town. I love it. Today, me and David doing water reads in town, and you know, we pulled the change out of our pocket because some guy was looking for change for the meter, and turns out he's visiting, first time here from Wyoming. And so it goes on where we meet people all the time that come to this town from, we've met them from everywhere, from England and Australia and everywhere. So it's, I always say, I can't imagine working for Public Works in a town like Taft or, you know, some town that nobody really wants to stop at. So it's really nice to be, you know, in a town that's a jewel and people want to come here and see it. And so I definitely enjoy being here, and you guys do a great job too. I used to be able to watch you guys on TV, and I don't know why they cut the feed. So we've got to figure that out.
Uh-oh, let's take care of that.
Yeah,
let's
I know.
figure it out.
All right, well, thanks a lot. And thank you for this. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Bob.
Anything, David?
Well, I'm just super proud of the crew. They're here 5 in the morning on Fridays, and so that they can get streets done before anyone's out on the streets using the streets. So they do things like that, and then weekend storm events way above and beyond. So it's just amazing. So I love working with these guys.
It's the midnight 3:30, you guys don't get to see.
Hey, thank you very much, council members, for, you know, recognizing us, what we do. It's easy to love your job when you work with a great crew, you got a great supervisor. You know, they say you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. That's absolutely true. I grew up in this town, I was raised here, and it's really nice just to be able to give back to the community, have the opportunity to have this amazing job. Thank you very much.
Aw, thank you.
Thanks, David.
Yeah, and I'm happy to open the Love Fest up to this table if anybody would like to add or comment. Gary, I have a feeling
Sure.
you might have something to say on
Having
this.
spent a fair, yeah, no, the love happens here, not on the street, right? Yeah, that's right. No, I spend much of my adult life as a public works professional, and as you guys know, we have these funny conversations. I know how good you are. I mean, I really know how good you are. I can give you metrics and everything. But I see you from my, that view I have of the park. I see you cleaning out there every morning. See you working on the endless, never-ending irrigation system in the park. But you're everywhere. And I see you at the events. But you're so good at what you do, and you guys nailed it. You're happy about it. That's what it's about. You're happy about it. You're great at what you do. You're responsive as all get out. So congratulations. You deserve every bit of the praise you get. So thank you for everything.
Thank you, Gary. Does anyone have anything to add?
Sure, I'd love to just talk about, just yesterday or day before, I was trying to shut off the water in my house, which, was a process for me. I'm not that plumbingly, inclined. And though I saw Bob and David in their little buggy right at my neighbor's house where the water shutoff valve is. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? And they have this little wand. They go around to every house and they read the water meter, and they have a little tech to do it. And so that's really cool. But, just that level of service. it was amazing. And they actually educated me on what I needed to do with my little shut-off valve. And even though it wasn't in my property, it was in my neighbor's property, it was really helpful. You know, it's just that kind of service too. And let's not forget about Snowmageddon, you know, ×2 and what they did with that. And, you know, how we still have jobs here because they cleared the snow and they got the trees out of the street. One of the biggest ways to lose a job in politics is not to remove the trash or the snow. And that's not on us, but we feel the brunt of it, and we're still in the seat because of you guys. So thank you. That's all I got.
Gary was talking about the responsiveness, and I want to talk about that. Also, Doug said plumbingly, and I also just wanted to say plumbingly really quick. Thank you. In terms of the responsiveness, the way the chain of command went 2 weeks ago was I get a text from one of my favorite ex-girlfriends letting me know that the water on Zion Street's a little funky. I text Sean texts Shane. I get a text from Shane saying I'm on my way. Shortly thereafter, I get a text from my ex-girlfriend saying the water's okay now. Thanks, Shane. That's how it works in this town.
That's awesome.
I just want to note that Adam just said his favorite ex-girlfriend.
One of my favorite ex-girlfriends.
We all know who that is, don't we?
Top
Wink,
12
wink.
easy.
Lou, would you like to add?
Coming back from the Rotary meeting this morning at about 8:02 a.m., I came across some Public Works guys fishing junk out of the trash containers on Broad Street. And I thought, you could not pay me to do that job. And I'm so glad we do pay you, and I'm so glad you do that job.
There's a compliment in there somewhere.
I think I get
Talk
it.
about fishing it out.
Yeah, I'll just wrap up by saying, and I think I might have said this once before to you, Shane, the compliments I hear the most from constituents are compliments about Public Works, which is fantastic. So thank you for that. I'm sorry it's only a week of honoring you, but we'll do our best to honor you in all the weeks in between as well. Thank you all for your service, and happy Public Works Week. All right, and you've got quite a bit of support in the room. That's nice. We're going to move right along to public comment. Government Code Section 54954.3 provides that any member of the public may address the City Council on any matter not on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city. The Brown Act, with limited exceptions, does not allow the council or staff to discuss issues brought forth under public comment. The council cannot take action on non-agenda items. Concerns may be referred to staff or placed on a future agenda. Please note that comments from the public will also be taken on the consent calendar and each agenda item at the time it is heard. Is there any public comment in the room on non-agendized items? Please come right up to the podium and line up, and each of you gets 3 minutes, and we're looking forward to hearing you.
That's nice, guys.
Yeah.
Oh, they were going to let him go first? That was nice.
Hey guys, you know I'm here. It feels so insane to be back again and again talking about this. I feel like I'm in a dystopian fiction. It's maddening. I'm here to try and convince you why this is important, why this is urgent, and I have not been convinced or heard, I think, very good arguments for why this shouldn't get done. Please convince me if you have good arguments. I want to hear them because I haven't heard them yet. You know, what I hear the most is, this is not our place. This is not the right place for this discussion. And what that implies is that the right place is Gaza, where these people are dying. That's what the right place for this to get figured out is where all the people are dying, where all the people are doing the suffering in the right place. And here is the wrong place to have that discussion. Here's exactly where we should be having that discussion. This is where it originates. This is the place. This is exactly the right place. And it's racism pure and simple. So I brought a quote from the beginning of this issue from Winston Churchill in 1937 when he wanted all the Jews to leave Europe because he's a racist, and he said they should all go to Palestine. And when the Palestinians resisted, this is what he had to say about that. And I'm sorry, it's really gross, but I'm going to read it. He said, "I do not agree that the dog in the manger has the final right to the manger, even though he may have lain there for a very long time. I do not admit, for instance, that a great wrong has been done to the Red Indians of America or the black people of Australia. I do not admit that a wrong has been done to these people for the fact that a stronger race, a higher grade race, a more worldly wise race, if you want to put it that way, has come in and taken their place. These are the people that are doing this stuff now. And we are here wondering if we should be quiet about it, because, you know, and we should have a discussion and meet them in the middle and come to an agreement. No, we have to resist with every fiber of our being, in every room in the country, everywhere. And they're gonna blunderly, dementedly escalate into another global war. You know, Winston Churchill, he's the good guy of that war. Cool. Yeah, so the good guys now, Netanyahu, Joe Biden, Putin, I don't care who you think is the good guy now. They're going to do the same thing now if we don't resist as hard as we possibly can in every avenue we have. We don't need to sit down with these people and explain it to them. We don't. We need to resist them. We don't need to talk to them about why it's wrong. It's obviously wrong. Use your hearts to say so everywhere you have a chance, please. Like, we're out of time. People are freaking dying every freaking day. Like, do it now.
Thank you, Zach.
Hi, I'm Jesse. Oh,
Sorry
time.
about that. I don't know.
Just here again because I think it bears repeating that a request was made to this council. That request still stands, and we will keep coming back to reiterate because it needs to happen. And boycott Amazon, please, and free Palestine.
Thank you.
Where are we boycotting Amazon? Where are we boycotting Amazon?
My name's Don Fraser. I'm a resident of Nevada City. I spoke in front of the council, I don't know, quite a while back, urging a resolution on a ceasefire in Gaza. I love this town. I heard a lot of love a little while ago. It hurts my heart that you've done nothing, absolutely nothing, while the killing goes on and on and on and on. It's an American-Israeli war, not just an Israeli war. We finance it. $17 billion. Some of you say it's not your business. Well, I can't help but think some of that $17 billion would find its way to Nevada City at some point in time, you know. Make no mistake about it. The right-wing Netanyahu government is a colonial settler government. And unless folks like us stand up and let the Biden administration know that we're fed up with it, it's going to continue. They are aware that there's a lot of unrest out there. The unrest on the colleges, all of a sudden they put a pause on sending 2,000-pound bombs to Israel. They will hear you. Please, I love this town. It hurts my heart that you've done nothing.
Thank you, Don.
Hi, I'm Liz from Nevada County. I didn't write anything this time. Didn't write anything this time because I just, I don't know what to say anymore. It seems like the easiest thing in the world is to say that we don't, this is why I write things out. It seems like the easiest thing in the world would be to say that we don't want to stand with genocide, that we don't want any more bombs dropped on babies. Kids are literally the only thing good in this world, and they're just slaughtering them. They're not peacefully going to sleep at night. They are brutally being crushed and dismembered and dying of diseases, and the people who are left are there to witness it. They've seen their children just calling for a ceasefire resolution is not going to stop the war, but it's going to add our names to a collective. Your voices are louder than ours. I'm probably on a list somewhere. I write Biden every single week. I write all of Congress members that I can. I write everyone I can. And I come here and I ask you guys to use your much louder voices to speak for me and your citizens, to say that we don't want to fund this war. We don't want any more bombs dropped on babies, that we stand against genocide and racism and apartheid and all of the things. This is also why I write things down. I don't know, this seems so fucking simple. As human beings, we are here with rights and the ability to speak for other humans that don't have those rights. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what to say. I just really want our voices to be added. I want to live in an area where we stand against this kind of thing. You guys all seem like good people. I don't know why this is complicated. There are feelings and then there are facts, and the facts are that children are being bombed, families are being bombed, civilians are being bombed, and we are funding it. 65.6% of all of their ammunition and weapons come from the United States. We could end this war today.
Thank you, Liz.
Evening, Council. I actually want to start with saying Happy Public Works Week. Once again, like you said, this city wouldn't run without our public works. I absolutely agree that a week is not enough. I also think a pay raise. Hey, nothing shows you care like paying people enough. That's just the first part. I then want to launch right into, why don't we have a ceasefire resolution? We heard, I don't know how long ago, there was going to be some sort of committee meeting talk. I don't know, that never happened. I would love to hear more information if that's going to happen. I feel like we just got that buried to a false victory, as we see is already happening on colleges' campuses, where you give in a little bit to try to deter the masses and then you do nothing. I want to say that a ceasefire resolution is the bare fucking minimum at this point. It's too late for a ceasefire resolution. Calling for a ceasefire doesn't bring back the probably 100,000 dead people, because we killed the people who counted back in December. The death toll has been 30,000 since December. You think it's still at 30,000? We're way past that. If we're not at 100,000, I would be shocked. Your inaction has brought what you thought didn't belong here closer to this town. Because I can no longer enjoy my life. I can't do fucking anything in my life. I just got a car for the first time since 2019. I just got stable housing for the first time since 2021. I can't enjoy any of it. I feel guilt every day for having a good day. Meanwhile, I have to show up here, talk to you, and none of you will even look me in the eye. Because you think you're better? You think it's not your problem? I don't know. Tell me, Doug. You tell me then. Why haven't? No, you haven't. You've told me it doesn't belong here. It does belong here. It is here. It is here. You don't want to. We're way past the point of being kind. You've seen what's happening on college campuses. You're seeing that people are escalating. I don't want that in my town, but I'm damn near close to doing something that hurts myself. Because what else can I do to make people see? I'm fucking close. I'm excited to hear more about your community discussion that may or may not happen. Hope the $30,000 was worth it.
Thank you.
Hello, representatives. I wanted to write about all the terrifying things that have happened in the months since we've seen each other, but I honestly cannot even process. I wanted to print out pictures for you guys to see, to make sure that you're seeing what I'm seeing, because I'm just confused about the disconnect. I just haven't had time. I'm like fighting for my life trying to make it through each day. So I wrote something random in my notes and I'm going to read it for you. Palestine is in everything to me. I see so crystal clearly how my personal liberation is tied, and all of our personal liberation is tied to Palestine. When I wake up in the morning and I hear birds, I wonder how daybreak sounds in Rafah right now. Stillness, urgency, both all the time. When I close my eyes to sleep, I imagine the sounds of strikes, I imagine the tents, and I imagine sheltering with only a piece of fabric between me and a 2,000-pound bomb. How do you guys sleep at night? How? How are you not thinking about this? When I was diagnosed with autism and twice exceptionality 2 weeks ago, all I thought of is the autistic Palestinian diaspora. I'm struggling to eat, I have sensory issues, and I'm low income, so it's been a challenge. And still, all I think of is Palestinians safeguarding recipes and resistance while making bread from cattle feed, grass, and water at best. I think of cultural survival. I think of all I have access to and of the aid trucks full of food waiting at the border. I think of mothers with dates wrapped in handkerchiefs to feed their babies because they are literally too malnourished to produce breast milk. I think of the 600,000 hungry children that are sheltering in Rafah right now. When I hear the radio, I wonder what songs were sung in Palestine today because I know that they were many. When I take my medications, I think of Palestinians with medical conditions, I think of disabled Palestinians, I think of what it means to survive and what it means to rise. Palestine has illuminated my life. From who I am, to the people that I trust, to the future that I create, and the world that I want to fight for. These are unprecedented times calling for unprecedented growth, and all I can do is just try to keep hoping that you are there with me. I do not understand how people who sit on this council who say that they are activists are so committed to the system that it is more important than what is right and what is principle. This is unprecedented. Committing to the system and trying to ride this ship to the ground, I just really urge you to look at the decisions you're making because we are all being called to do something that we never thought that we would do, to rise to this moment, and I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for it from you guys. I really need you guys to be there for this and to rise to the occasion and to challenge yourselves and your thoughts and your beliefs and what you think is right and just take a beat and listen. Please put a ceasefire resolution on the agenda.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. I'm Karen, Nevada City. I'm here again, as those before me, begging you to put a ceasefire resolution on the agenda. I'm here because I'm heartbroken. As we speak, Rafah is being bombed to oblivion, and this is it. This is final stages of genocide, and we, as a city, aren't doing anything. No one's saying anything. Can you guys hear me? Thank you.
I'm actually having a hard time hearing you because of the folks talking directly behind you in line, folks. If you could please, thank you. Thank you, Karen. Sorry about that.
I'm just at a loss, and I, like everyone else, I just agree we need to be shouting from the rooftops, talking about this in every room we are. And I just don't understand, like, you are supposed to be representing us. I don't know where else to go. I mean, I go to other places and I talk about this and I'm writing to my representatives and I'm calling Washington every week. And I just don't get it. And as a Jew, I don't feel safer the more Israel acts. The more Judaism is conflated with Zionism, the more they commit genocide, more anti-Semitism, actual real acts of anti-Semitism is happening. And my safety and Palestinian safety is bound. And I want you to speak for all of our safety and liberation and condemn what is happening in Gaza. Please use your voices.
Thank you, Karen.
Good evening, Council. I apologize for being disrespectful and whispering in the back. I didn't know you could hear us.
It's quite all right. It's amazing how the sound travels in here.
Oh my gosh, and you have this rotunda in the front. It's wonderful. I'm Debbie Woolley. I'm from We the People, and I just wanted to thank you for taking this job. It's voluntary positions that you have. No one forced you to be sitting in these seats. And I know in my town, they don't get paid very much, so I don't know about you. But we were talking with Sean, and Sean was telling us that you are one of the oldest cities and towns in our state, that you were formed before the Constitution. So that was an interesting thing for me. So this evening, we would like to come to you in peace as we the people, to give you notice and instructions so that you and your agents may provide due care. We have given the packets that are sitting right there on that table to the clerk. We would like to have them passed out, but we were told that you can't receive them until later. But in the packets are a lockdown notice with a verbiage for letting you know that I'm kind of off script because you should be opening them right now. Okay, so the lockdown notice that's in those packets has already been given to 50 state governors, to the President of the United States, to the Supreme Court, to the United States Senate, and the United States Congress, and we are now giving you a copy. In January, we learned, January 2024, we learned that the federal government, in alignment with the World Health Organization, has announced an amendment to a credible threat of a public health emergency. Their expanding countermeasures now include both Ebola and the Marburg viruses and the extension of liability immunity. We have also learned that the government was never granted any authority to lock down the people, even in times of emergency. The main object of government is the protection and preservation of personal rights, private property, and public liberties. The government just serves as for our benefit as public officers, trustees, and servants of the people. We are also attaching a list of unalienable rights, which includes the right to accept or refuse any medical treatment for any reason. Since this council has a history of putting the city under health emergency orders for extended periods of time.
Debbie, I'm so sorry, your time is up.
Okay.
Thank you. We will take a look at those packets.
Good evening, council. Thank you for your service. Thank you for this forum to allow us to speak. Since this council has a history of putting the city under health emergency orders for extended periods of time, we are very concerned that another round of involuntary lockdown and health orders could occur in our fair state, cities, and counties. Please take notice that all states in our Republican form of government have sworn to protect individual liberty as a condition to be hired as trustees. The people of America are all guaranteed to have the same rights in all states. As an elected official, do you believe it is your duty to always protect the natural rights of the people so they are guaranteed enjoyment of their natural rights? Or do you believe that it's in some time of panic or emergency, you can remove the people's rights to freely exercise liberty, movement, worship, commerce, or any other purpose that is lawful? If so, please show constitutional authority where you get that power, posting this granted authority conspicuously within the next 15 days, notifying the public and all agents. If you cannot show where you get the authority or where you got the authority, and you take any action blocking the people's rights to enjoy freedom, then any lockdown mandate or forced use of any medical device will be construed as being done with malice, intent, full knowledge, and understanding against your trust indenture, your contract with the people, the Constitution. This notice is given in peace and with the love of Christ, that you and your agents may provide due care to those who have all the political power, the people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, this is my first time speaking at the council. My name is Joseph Bonamolo. Daniela, how you doing? It's been a long time.
Hi.
Yeah, so I'm a little late to the party because I understand there was already a pretty big meeting about this. And really the message I want to deliver today is that I realize that, speaking about this, that you guys have certain constraints because you're part of a corporation. You're not, although you have the city council title, you're operating under a corporation, a corporate status. That leaves us in the private, so we have to, I believe, take other avenues to direct our energies to get you guys to move. And simply, I'm probably speaking more to the crowd today than I am to you, because what I've done is I've formed what is our First Amendment right to form an assembly, to gather and redress our grievances. And then during that process, we can serve affidavits of truth. We can get the FOIAs for the oaths and the bonds, and then we can serve a letter of intent, and then we come at you guys with affidavits of truth, which that's sworn testimony, and you have to respond to that. And that does hold your oaths and bonds in the interim there. It holds you guys accountable to respond correctly. As I said, you're a corporation, so you guys, I think, have another agenda at hand. It's like I said, you're constrained within your system. And so my message today, like I said, is talking to the people in this audience. The assembly that we've already had an assembly in Nevada County for 4 years. We were able to serve the Board of Supervisors and curtail that first mask mandate. 200 plus signatures. They turned, ran, and went the other direction because they know that it's not law. Mandates are not laws. Mandates are higher court decisions handed down to lower court lower courts to keep the government in check and balance. It's simply within the public, not in the private. So I'm going to urge people today to come to the assembly at Robinson's on Wednesday nights from 6 to 8, because that's where we'll form committees and be able to attack these types of issues firsthand and actually make a real difference. So I would, in the future, be expecting some paperwork to come across your guys' desk that actually is going to hold you accountable to your decisions. And that is my message today. I'm not going to go on, but I do thank you for your time, and I do believe that the way to approach you guys is with respect. Even though we may not agree with your decisions and what you're doing with the $30,000 that I was told about. I mean, that I don't believe that should have went anywhere but to the direct cause, and not hire middle people in there to try to mix it up. So please, people in the audience, people listening to this recording, come to the assembly at Robinson's on Wednesday nights. Let's make a difference.
Thank you, Joseph.
Hello, I'm Steve, live next door. Want to come and celebrate these guys, doing our thing every morning. I'm out there doing my thing, and I see them making our town better. That's super. Congratulations, Chief, on your award from the city or the Chamber of Commerce. That's a good thing. And I appreciate all your effort out here doing what you do. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Steve. Thanks for being a good neighbor. All right, any more public comment in the room on non-agendized items? All righty, I'm not hearing any, so going to go on to the consent agenda. Want to thank everybody before we do that, just want to thank everybody for the public comment and your continued efforts to show up and ask for what you believe in. I can say, as mayor, I do not stand with genocide. I do not stand with the actions of the Israeli government, and for myriad reasons, which have been named by members of this body, we do not have the votes to agendize a ceasefire resolution, which is why we are engaging in the process that Gary and I are leading. Admittedly, it is taking longer than we expected, and it will take longer than anyone in this room feels comfortable with. And for that, I apologize. I do know that if there was anything that we could do to stop the reality in Gaza, we would have done it by now. So we want to make sure that we engage in a process that sets us up for the future and creates practice and process so that we can get it right and quicker in the future. So thank you for continuing to be with us, and moving on to the consent agenda.
Ms. Mayor,
Yes.
not just Gaza, Myanmar, Darfur,
Sure.
Yemen. The list is endless because
With all due respect, Councilmember Cece, I am going to stop you there. The ask in the room has been specifically about Gaza, and we can name all the genocides in the world, and geez, how much time do we have to do that? I think I understand your point, but out of respect for the people in the room, the ask is not about any place other than Gaza, which is where we are quite literally watching a genocide unfold on social media. So moving right along to the consent agenda, please. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items before we take action on the consent calendar. We will hear any public comment on consent calendar items, only including on consent calendar items only, including any requests to pull consent items. Do we have any public comment on any consent items? All right, fantastic. What about council members? Do we have any from you guys? No? All right, I'm looking for a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar.
I move we approve the consent calendar.
I'll second that.
Great. I have a motion by Councilmember Klein and a second by Councilmember Fleming. Are there any objections to the motion? Excellent. I'm not hearing any, so the motion carries. Moving right along. To public hearing, item number 9 on the agenda, conduct a public hearing in consideration of ordinance 2024-03, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Nevada City, State of California, adding section 2.04.03 of chapter 2.04 City Council of Title II, Administration and Personnel of the City of Nevada City Municipal Code relating to salary for members of the City Council and provide direction on the inclusion of planning commissioners and public arts commissioners in the classification and compensation schedule for the fiscal year 2024-2025 budget. Mr. Sean Grayson, our city manager, please take it away.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Most California cities have established a compensation rate for city council members in some fashion, some newer, some older, but most in some time after their incorporation. We were incorporated in 1856 and have never had a compensation schedule for our city council or selectmen or whatever the previous titles and iterations were of the board of the city. And we have never paid our commissioners either. The city council member compensation rates vary pretty widely throughout the state of California. Many cities have changed theirs relatively recently to align with new law SB 329. Just for context, the city of Grass Valley pays $275 a month for council members and $300 for the mayor. The town of Truckee pays $851 a month for all council members. That's a pretty broad range. It makes the average $563, but it's not a very good average when you only have 2. So even though city council member compensation isn't tied to an hourly rate, in other words, we're not paying you as hourly employees or management employees, it makes it a little easier to understand kind of the math of what we're talking about. So if you counted up just the hours of meetings attended by council members on a monthly basis, which is our 2 council meetings, the prep for those, the occasional closed session, all of our council members, I'm looking at the council, they know this, but for those in the audience or those at home, all of our council members are assigned to multiple internal committees and external committees and commissions of other bodies. And so at a minimum, our council members are dedicating at least 32 hours just to attending the actual meetings. That doesn't include the preparation or the engagement with the community or anything else. But all things being equal, minimum wage at $16 an hour and 32 hours of regular city activities, you're right at about $500 a month if you were comparing to minimum wage. So the ordinance before you this evening would set the compensation for city council members at $500 a month. If first reading is done tonight, the ordinance would be adopted at the next meeting on May 22nd. It doesn't go into effect until July 1st of 2024. And from a kind of a basic principle. A council can't give themselves a raise. We had an election. We have 3 new council members taking seat in July. It just happens to be that they're the same 3 council members that we will have in June, but it is the seating of a new council. So you are, by doing this, you're not giving a raise to yourselves. You're giving a raise to the future council, which again is the same 5 of you. Separately, the city council establishes compensation for employees and others besides themselves by resolution. So there is no per population limit or law that speaks to commissioner compensation, and the ranges are all over the place. The most common is to not pay your commissioners anything, which is unusual or odd to me, because the most common is to pay your council members, not pay your commissioners. In this county, Grass Valley doesn't pay commissioners anything. The town of Truckee pays their planning commissioners $400 a month. They have other commissioners that are not compensated. If we use that same hourly rate analysis, your planning commissioners who have a monthly meeting of regular scheduled items, they also have assignments for a committee of 2 that's assigned for specific projects that come through the hopper, and then there's individual liaisons appointed for specific projects. So all in all, they have at least 8 hours of regular city activities. And our newly formed Public Arts Commission, very similar. They don't have that subcommittee structure of the ARC and the individual liaisons, but they do have at least 5 hours of regular city activities. So if you were to put that in the $16 an hour category at 5 and 8 hours respectively, that puts the Planning Commission $128. I don't like that number. I like $125 better, but that's the math. And $80 for Public Arts Commissioners per month. This would not be part of the ordinance that's before you. If you wanted to move forward with that, and my recommendation is that you do, I would ask that your direction simply be that we provide for that in the budget, and we would have one of your actions in the budget adoption is to approve a resolution that's compensation for all of employees. It would add those 2 for our commissioners. And then there's a myriad of reasons to support compensation for city council members. There's also, people that would prefer that that not be the case. But from a very basic standpoint, compensation helps remove financial barriers that prevent individuals from running for office. So at its core, we are a community that has 3,334 people. If you're registered to vote, you can you can run for council. That is not available to everyone. There are people that, for financial considerations or other reasons, they would never be able to run for council. We can't remove all of the roadblocks, but this is a relatively low hurdle that removes some roadblocks for some people, effectively allowing more people an opportunity to run for council. We live in a community that probably 5% or more of the population is former council members or planning commissioners. It may be 10%. So obviously there's a lot of civic engagement. Some of them are in the room right now. Both former mayors, in fact. 4 former mayors. So civic engagement is already high in the community. From a traditional standpoint, it is relatively low when you look at folks that are under 40 years of age, and it's very low when you look at our youth coming out of high school. So this is just one opportunity to remove some of those roadblocks. At the end of the day, this, like I said, is 2 different actions, one being direction to me to include this in the budget. The budget workshop included compensation at levels higher than this, just so that we could make sure that should you choose to do this, we wouldn't have to retool the budget when we bring it to you on June 12th for adoption. But the action requested tonight would be to provide me that direction and to conduct or hold first reading of the ordinance, waive reading of the ordinance in its entirety, read by title only, which the mayor already did, but we will do for you again should you choose to do it, and we'll schedule the second reading for adoption on May 22nd. Happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you so much, Sean. There's a lot of thought and consideration in there. Thank you. I'm going to open it up to the room. Anybody who would like to offer public comment on this item?
Dwayne Strasser, ex-City Council. This was an interesting concept when I saw it listed here recently because it was something that was brought up over the years and never considered for those of us that have served previously. But I also think this was dramatically, one of the biggest negatives I went through in my years of service with my family, with my business, was the fact that there was no compensation. And council members that are active, that meet with their community members when there's a problem, that are truly active on their committees, I was constantly leaving my business for an hour. I was constantly getting interrupted, and the staff would look at us like, oh, here we go again. Somebody would walk in the door and want to talk to Dwayne. And we go out the side of the building and come down here regularly, not to mention the time away from your family. Unless somebody's retired, it was truly a burden. So I do know a couple of dozen people over the years that we've tried to recruit to run for city council that ended up refusing because of the burden it puts on. And people look at it as a way of service if they can break even, because it's truly about service, but not when they start losing money because of the time they have to give up away from work, away from personal schedules. So I fully support this. It's a long time overdue. I'm glad that you guys finally have stepped forward and found a way financially to make it happen. And congratulations. And I support all of you and respect your service. I know what you've gone through. And I hope it will encourage future generations of people to actually run for office. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dwayne.
Hi, everybody. It's fun to be here tonight. This is great. I'm so excited to see this on the agenda. And I cannot tell you, in the 4 years that I was on council, I never worked harder. And 32 hours, you know, I'm probably put in, I'd say 50 hours a month. And that counted going home at night and answering emails and phone calls and all the different things that had to be done. Of course, that was during COVID. Maybe it was more, I don't know, but it was insane. I also know that there are so many people who can't run for office because they can't afford a babysitter or they can't take time off work. And I think that doing this will actually make it so we are all working for the people instead of working for few in this town. When you're getting paid with tax dollars, it means that you are answering to everybody. So I really want to acknowledge that this is a huge benefit to our community, and it's high time that it happens. I also really love the idea of doing a salary for the Planning Commission, because it is hard finding planning commissioners. And I think this would make it a little easier. And it's a hard job. They really put in the hours prior to the meetings, and those meetings are long. But, you know, I see them all over town checking things out. You know, it's not an easy job, just like your job is not an easy job. So I value what they do. I value what you do, and it's high time you got paid for it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Erin.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Diana Gamzon, and I work here in Nevada City. I'm in very strong support of this item. I am grateful to all of you for your service to the city. I have personally witnessed each of you and your predecessors who were serving as city council members go above and beyond, attending commissions, committees, very late night city council meetings sometimes, public events, all the meetings, and then so much that you do after hours. This is, as others said, this is long overdue. I think it should be higher. I think it should match Truckee's. But we'll start here. And, you know, given that we are in a small town, the work never ends. You are always on call to the constituents when you're walking down Broad Street or you're at SPD or wherever. And I do support the direction for in the budget discussions for compensation for our planning commissioners and other commissioners. I'm really excited to see what develops from these policy changes, the new perspectives, people who may have been limited to serving for our city, what voices arise. And so thank you for your service, and I hope to see this move forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Diana.
Good evening, council members. It gives me no pleasure to stand before you tonight to talk about this agenda item. I am frankly shocked it has been brought up for your consideration. What has changed that you might think you are the exception to over 150 years of serving our community for love and civic duty rather than a reward? You already took a bite of the apple when you voted yourselves medical and dental insurance. That was supposed to be it, just a little something to recognize your work. Now you are being asked to consider giving yourselves a $500 stipend a year. We all know it will increase every year. $500 this year, $750 the next. When is enough enough? It never will be. When will you stop serving your community to make it better, but instead to make it your income source? You ran for this position knowing it was an all-volunteer position with no pay. And when the city is tight on money, will your pay be taken away? No. Instead, the fees will be raised for the citizens, or employees will be furloughed. The staff report justifies it by saying other cities pay their city council members. So what? Dare to be different. You are not doing any more work or spending any more time than the men and women who came before you for the last 150 years. In fact, you have more resources and staff to take some of the load off than your predecessors. They managed to create a community, build roads and buildings, an airport, a park, reinvigorate a town decimated by a freeway, and so much more with only 2 staff people to help them. Your council meetings are already much shorter than council meetings used to be, and that I can tell you from personal experience for many years. If you have extra money in the budget to burn, instead of lining your pockets, why don't you give each property owner a check to help with the fire abatement work they're required to do? How about putting yard waste dumpsters in every neighborhood so that residents that don't have trucks or can't haul yard waste to the free disposal day have a place to get rid of the stuff that's too big for the yard waste bins? How about putting in some sidewalks or adding a few more people to the public works crew so they can maintain the town, not just the downtown? How about fixing some of the potholes that have been in the streets so long they are now historic? We all know where they are and how we have to drive around them, even on busy streets. Do something for the citizens of Nevada City and not just for yourselves. Vote no on this. And I spent I was 30 when I went on the council. I worked 2 jobs.
Thank you, Kathy. Your time is up.
8 years with no vacation doing
Thank
city.
you, Kathy.
Hello again. I just want to echo the sentiment that it is an equity issue to have people be unpaid for these jobs and for these positions, because not everyone has access to them, as was already said. So just wanted to echo that sentiment. I also wanted to address that times are adaptive and times are changing, and our country has changed in significant ways. And yeah, you're going to get paid more. I hope you get paid more. I think all of you guys should be paid a livable wage where you're able to work as much as you need to pay your bills by this job. And that, to me, is what it means to be of service, is to make it so everyone can be of service. So I appreciate that this is on the agenda, and I hope that it opens the doors for more unpaid positions to be paid. So just wanted to share my support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Just want to say, if you don't feel comfortable voting yes for yourselves, vote yes for future city council people.
Thank you.
Lori Oberholzer, 310 Nevada Street. I wasn't going to speak on this issue, but since all the other past council members are speaking, I guess I will too. I was in my early 30s when I first ran for city council and owned my own business. It was a new business, and I wasn't making a lot of money. And I worked really hard when I was on the city council, and then I went on to the planning commission, so it was 19 years, never got paid, never felt bad about that, still never made a lot of money, but my feeling is that I guess my experience was I put a lot of time in, but it wasn't any more than what a lot of volunteers around town do when they're working for the food bank or volunteering for the historical society or you know, any other group in the city. There's people that put in those kinds of hours as volunteers for nothing. And your jobs are not, or your positions are not jobs. They, you know, you take them knowing it's not a job, it's not something you have to do. So it's a lot different than you know, a volunteer kind of a thing. I just think we're too small. There's a lot of other small towns that still don't pay their commissioners or their council people, and I think we're a very volunteer-oriented town, and we ought to stay that way. Thanks.
Thank you, Lori. Hi, Zach.
Hi. Sorry, I had to step out. Yes, you should be paid. You should be paid prevailing wage for what you do. You should be paid very well for what you do. And the fact that you're not paid means I can't afford to do your job, which I would love to do, but I got to go to work instead. So please pay yourselves as much as you can get away with. I think prevailing wage for what you do is like, I don't know, 40 bucks an hour. Let's 70 bucks an hour. Let's go with that. And you work a lot of hours, and you know, so yeah, let's get that done, because people should be paid for the work that they do, because it's hard to go to work. And we need people who are invested in the work that they do. And people who can't afford to do public service are getting screwed. So yeah, that's my comment.
Thank you, Zach. Any other public comment on this issue? All right, I am going to bring it back to the table. Who wants to take a stab at this one first?
I'll take a stab. I have concerns about this item. I had two coming in. Well, the one thing that I'm not concerned about is paying our commissioners. I mean, we're asking people to volunteer, to put in a lot of hours. I think we should pay the commissioners. Those of us at the table here who have been elected, we chose ourselves to do this job. And my two concerns about paying us were, first of all, are we putting money into what's only a theoretical problem that people can't afford to run for office because they aren't going to be paid for it? And I was very happy to hear public comment that said, yeah, there are people. So that eliminates that concern for me. My second concern is, by paying us, are we giving incumbents an unfair advantage? When I ran my campaign, it cost about $10,000. If I know, maybe I was extravagant, but if I were to save every paycheck from now till the next election, I'd have that $10,000 and I wouldn't have to put any money in at all. Doesn't that give incumbents an unfair advantage? And that's my concern.
I will say it gives incumbents who save that $10,000 and don't need to spend it and use it to live. So that's my quick response on that. Anyone else?
I'll tell my personal story. When I was just a pup, it was 2006, and Paul Mattson said, "We think that we need some fresh young blood on the old city council, and how would you like to run?" And I said, "Paul, my life is a mess. That's a terrible idea." And I'm glad I told him that, because I would have been a well-intentioned, awful councilman. So more recently, 2 years ago when we ran, I had had a steady job at one place for 16 years, and I felt for the first time like I've wanted to serve my city for a long time, and right now I feel stable enough that I can do that. And I knew this was going to be a time-consuming job, and at the job I had, since I'd worked there for 16 years, I had saved up a lot of vacation hours. So if I missed some of my daily, 8 hours of work for council stuff, I could just chalk it up to vacation hours and not miss a beat on the next paycheck, which was great for paying my bills and so forth. Then a few months into serving, I lost that job. And that's when it got real interesting for me. And last year was a real tough year of scraping by and odd jobs and doing what I could. And it became very clear to me that there is a barrier of entry for serving on this body. And there are, I can think of several people, single moms and the like, who would be excellent on city council. Careful, Gary.
Favorite ex-girlfriend.
Who would be excellent but couldn't possibly do it because they couldn't afford it, and just the idea of childcare being taken care of would maybe help them reconsider that, and I think the city would benefit from that. One of my colleagues at this table, I'm not going to say who, but she was having a very hard time finding a place to live last year. It's tricky and expensive to live in Nevada City now, and it's a relatively small amount, but I can tell you now that I'm starting from a new job and I'm not accruing vacation hours, it would make a difference. Tomorrow, most of us are going on the ERC tour of Nevada County as city council people. And that is
Thursday.
On a Thursday. That is an entire day I will not be at my new job. And I am not going to be paid at my new job because I won't be working at my new job. So that's a free day for them. And I'm doing it because I think council people should represent us on this sort of county expedition. So yeah, I think it's a barrier to entry, and I think we're all the poorer for it.
Thank you, Adam.
Gary? No, you go first, Gary. I want to hear what you have to say.
Multiple perspectives on this. First, I'd pay a planning commissioner a hell of a lot more than $100 to read EIRs for me, that's for sure. I don't do this. I would never do this for the money. It doesn't matter to me. I worked hard in my life. I'm in a good place. I can do this. Not everybody can say that. I recently had a younger person tell me it was my job to do something they wanted me to do. And I said, this isn't a job for me, this is a calling. I was raised in a life of service, and all my life I have served, and all my life I will serve. It's just who I am. Money or no money, I do what I think I need to do, and I do what I try to do what is right. And I put my resources into it. But I'm fortunate. There's privilege here, there's circumstance here, and though I will acknowledge the privilege that I have for what I came for, I also worked my ass off to be in this position. However, I am aware because of my many years of local government service that there is a barrier. And not that I believe that $500 a month, which is going to equate for many of us to about $6.50 an hour or something, is going to make a difference enough that people could run. But it does when it comes to childcare. It does when it comes to those few hours that you might need. And as I look at this city and I hear this audience, and I love this city as much as any of you, even though I've only been here for off and on for 25 years, so I'm still a newcomer, But I want new blood. I want new voices. I want multiple generations. I want everybody to have the same opportunity that I have to serve this beautiful community. I do not want it constrained by history. I do not want it to be constrained.
Yes, Sherry.
To be constrained by the ability to have a babysitter. So that's where I am. And I also want to see the commissioners. There is something that happens when people receive money for what they do. And that's important. It's not going to make a difference to me. My money will go to a good cause. But that's where I am with it. And I want to see this opened up, and I want to see more opportunities for people to serve.
Thank you, sir.
You know, I'm conflicted on this one. You know, a lot of good points were made, and I'm going to echo a few of them. You know, the $500, you know, might help the babysitter, but it doesn't help the person who needs more money to do this job. So where is the line? Is it $500? Is it $1,000? Is it, you know, a salary for this position? You know, and I think it's a slippery slope. We've seen, you know, I had a conversation earlier about, you know, if we had done this a long time ago, the compensation would be at $3,000. And then, you know, at a certain point, it becomes, you know, a situation where people run for the money. You know, I think that, you know, there are people who would be more inclined to run for the position if it was compensated, you know. To Gary's point about public service, you know, I serve on a bunch of boards and, you know, I don't get compensated for any of it. And, you know, I hear a lot of, you know, comments by my wife that I'm off to do something else that I'm not getting paid for. So I know that she would really like me to get at least $500, but you know, I'm conflicted on this. You know, I think it's a little disingenuous to give ourselves a raise, even though, you know, we're kind of doing it, you know, legally.
Not kind of.
Well, we are doing it legally. Sorry, Dean. We are definitely doing it legally and by the book. I appreciate Sean's, you know, math, I guess, and hourly, and coming up with, you have to come up with a way to figure out what our compensation is. But, you know, I mean, basing it on, you know, how many hours we put in, and, you know, it's a little bit, you know, like Gary said, I mean, it doesn't really compensate us for the time that we're working here. You know, my hourly rate is a lot higher than, you know, what we're getting paid, you know, and some people's aren't. You know, this means a lot to a lot of people, so I can't discount that. But I certainly don't think the Planning Commission, I think giving somebody $82 or $84, you know, while it's something, and I get it, you know, it means something to people, especially artists, you know, the planning commissioners, they have a harder job, I think, sometimes than ours, you know, and I watch those meetings that go on for 4 hours, and you know, I just think it's a little, I don't know, I just don't feel it's like, if we're going to give ourselves $500 and we're going to give them, you know, a lot less for, you know, what I would see as similar time commitments, at least for the Planning Commission. I don't know, I think the jury's still out on what the time commitment is for the Arts Council or Arts Commission. So, you know, I just don't know where so $500, you know, Grass Valley's at 300, you know, Truckee has more people, has more money. Grass Valley has more people and more money, and they're only at 300. So, you know, I'm a little conflicted on the dollar amounts, although $500 is a nice amount. I think that will help the babysitter. That will help, you know, put gas in somebody's car to get here if that's really a struggle. I don't really think it's going to help, you know, a wide swath of low-income people be able to afford to do this job. I really don't. I mean, there is a line of people it would help, but it's, you know, it's marginal compared to the, you know, the vast amount of poverty that exists even in this community. So, you know, I don't know where I am on this issue, but I'm struggling with it. I'm working through it. So that's where
I hear that.
Yeah, you guys heard it out loud.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing a bit of your struggle, Doug.
Well, thank you. Share yours.
I don't have a struggle.
Oh,
this
good.
is a clear-cut issue for me. And this isn't about Doug, and this isn't about Lou, and it isn't about Gary, and it isn't about Adam, and it isn't about me. I just completed a 4-year term for free, right? And I'm not going to say for free. There's a tremendous cost to this work. And I did it anyways. And I'm such a masochist that I ran for 4 more years, and I'm willing to do it again without pay. But this is an equity issue. With all due respect, Kathy Wilcox Barnes, I've never disagreed with you more. And to be honest, I feel very offended by some of the things that you've said. That we think that we are so exceptional. You know, we've taken a bite of the apple by giving ourselves health care. Wow, that darn apple is only for certain people and not others, right? What does that remind you of? Kathy, you said dare to be different. We are daring to be different. This is what we're doing, part of what we're doing to be different. This is an equity issue. No, this isn't going to allow, as you said, Doug, large swaths of low-income people to run. That's not what we're trying to do here. We are making an effort towards making these positions a little more accessible for people, right? When I got on council, I was the youngest person by 20 years. All right, now I have Adam to join me. I was not in a financially secure place to do this. As I mentioned previously, I'm a bit of a masochist. So I said, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna put myself through this because I didn't feel like my voice, my generation, the needs of people my age were being represented on this body. Okay? The time for not paying people for their labor, Kathy, is over. 150 years is too long. You should have been paid, Kathy. Lori Oberholzer, I wish you were to have been paid to support you in your budding small business that you were running, to help make things just a little bit easier. And if my colleagues up here don't need that $500 a month, give it back to the city. There are plenty of organizations right here in Nevada City that could use those funds. We have a tribe that is just about to acquire new land. They will continue to need funds to support them. There are many things that we can do with those funds. This has nothing to do with lining pockets. My pockets are not going to be lined by this amount of money, I assure you. And, do something for the city instead of yourselves. I believe that we have been doing a lot of things for the city, Kathy, and not just the city, but the people of the city. And I think that's maybe what I feel is a little different about this council is we are doing our best to tend to the people as opposed to this abstract notion of a city, a historic city. This is a living, breathing place with living, breathing people, and it's time we get paid for our work. It's not a lot of money. I agree with you. The commissioners, what's $80 to the Public Arts Commission? You know what it is? It might pay for their parking while they're here. It might pay for a meal for the one night that they have a council meeting. It might pay for that cup of coffee that they're getting before the council meeting. It is something. It is a gesture of something to say, we see you, we see the work you're doing. Is it enough? No. Is $500 enough? No. Nobody up here is doing this for the money, but I do think it's time that people get paid. So with that, I'm looking for a motion to hold first reading, waive reading of ordinance. It's in its entirety, read by title only, schedule for second reading and adoption May 22nd, 2024, and direct the inclusion of commissioners in the compensation schedule.
So moved.
Second.
Dean?
Ordinance 2024-03, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Nevada City, State of California, adding section 2.04.030 of Chapter 2.04, City Council of Title II, Administration and Personnel of the City of Nevada City Municipal Code relating to salary for members of the City Council.
Thank you. Gabby, roll call, please.
Councilmember Cece.
Abstain.
Councilmember Klein.
Yes.
Councilmember Fleming.
I'm so conflicted. I think your remarks were somewhat passionate, maybe a little bit too aggressive for some people, but I think I'm going to vote yes.
I'm sorry my passion is so offensive to you.
It wasn't to me, it was the person who walked out.
Oh, is that right?
Vice Mayor Peterson?
Yes.
And Mayor Fernandez?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Excellent.
Do we have sufficient direction on the second part?
On the commission part, you have.
I have, unless you wanted to change it in some fashion.
Start here and keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
Then I have it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you all. Thank you for your public comment. Thank you, council members. Moving right along to business.
Madam Mayor.
Item number 10.
Bio break, please.
Yeah, we're going to take a 5-minute bio break, return at 8 o'clock. Item number 10, consideration of one, authorization to purchase a parking kiosk and parking meters from McKay Meters in an amount not to exceed $9,589 for the Commercial Street parking lot and downtown parking stalls. And 2, authorization to purchase solar lighting from Fon Roche.
Very good.
Fon Roche Lightning America in an amount not to exceed $20,925 for the Commercial Street parking lot lighting project. And finally, number 3, authorize the city manager to execute any contracts or related documents. Brian and Sean, tell us more.
Yes, and if we need help, Lisa, who did half of this work, is in the audience too. So parking's been an issue in Nevada City since there was conflict of where do you hitch your horse versus where does the carriage park, probably before that. But with our parking study that we completed last year, we had a whole host of recommendations. The first set of actions that are before you tonight are essentially a pilot so that we can evaluate how the individual components that we're recommending in response to the recommendations might work. Ultimately, we will bring back to the infrastructure committee who's seen these recommendations already, and then to the full council sometime probably in early October, the outcome of the pilot and a recommendation to address all of the recommendations from the parking study, which would be everything from expanded parking lots, new parking lots, citywide credit card metering, lighting in other locations, and the funding source to do all of that, and whether or not the right thing is to do it all at once or to phase it in over time. So this is the iterative action that gets us to that point in October where you can have an informed decision on the kiosks and the meters and the credit cards and how they've worked versus coins and things like that. Brian's been intimately involved with this for a very long time, and a variety of approvals from council for different meter configurations in the kiosk, and then COVID came about, but thankfully the council approved that parking study, and so now we're back to you with some informed decision making tonight. I'll let him share everything about the kiosks and the meters. I'll just hit on the lights. Members of the council saw Fon Roche at the League of California Cities conference. In fact, the CEO is French from France. Gary spent quite a bit of, Vice Mayor Peterson spent quite a bit of time talking about various places in France that I had no idea what they were talking about, but nonetheless, we got to see the product in action, so to speak. This proposal brings 4 light poles, 2 with a single head and 2 with double heads, to the Commercial Street parking lot. One of the things in the surveys from the parking study, one of the significant things was the perception of the lack of light as a safety issue. And so the lighting that exists there now is 2 lights right over the bathrooms, one that basically shines on the stamper, and one that shines down at the doors to the bathroom. And then there's a series of poles throughout that provide essentially mood lighting. They don't really illuminate the stalls or the ground or anything, but they do kind of outline the parking lot so you wouldn't run off the road, so to speak, if it was dark. These lights are not going to provide stadium lighting or used car lot lighting. This is or tennis court lighting. The maximum is 1 candle foot power throughout the area. And so it's intended to provide some uniformity of light and access to be able to see your car, see the stalls that will no longer have meters in them if you approve the kiosk that Brian's going to talk about. They are solar powered with internal batteries. They're black. They are dark skies compliant lighting as we move towards a dark sky ordinance and hopefully become a dark sky community. They are not historical. by any means. We did take this to the Planning Commission twice. They gave us some good feedback. We changed the height of the poles, scaled them down. They're 14 feet tall now. They were taller, which would have allowed us to use less light heads, but now shorter is more light heads, but meets our code of what we would require for other people to do. But they're clearly not historic. So, and the commission was, I don't want to speak for them, but they recognize that some of the things we do are not historic, and so trying to put lipstick on a pig as a reference doesn't necessarily change that it's a pig. And so in this case, we're putting kiosks there. We have meters there. We have we'll have lighting there. None of that is historical, but it is relatively minimized as far as its visual aesthetic. It is all black. It doesn't, it doesn't show tremendously. And the light in the Vets Hall parking lot is a very bright, very high Kelvin PGD light that's right on the back corner. So these will be somewhat hidden from view, whereas that one is pretty easy to see. Ultimately, these will let us know if solar is a good solution for us, if there's something that could be done in other parking lots or other city facilities. We have this exact same setup exists in Denver, Colorado, throughout the airport and streets there without issues, and they have more snow than we do. But it is a pilot. If we decide that this is the wrong place for them, we could ultimately move these lights to another location. The tremendous advantage of the solar and internal battery system is that we don't have to trench and bring electricity to the lights. So we don't have any more capacity in the panel that is there at the lot. So we'd have to upgrade the PG&E panel, trench through the entire parking lot to bring electricity just to do any more lights, because we used up all the electricity for the EV chargers. So if this solution works in more places in the city, great. And if it doesn't, then maybe it's just the solution for the commercial street lot. So that's all I'll say about Fawn Roche lights. Thank you, Mayor. You said it perfectly, and I'll hand it over to. And Lisa did most of the legwork with their firm and getting the updates on what's in the packet before you this evening has kind of lighting surveys and hot spotting and things like that. So thank you to her for doing all that work. I'm just reporting out on it. But to Brian for all things meters and kiosks.
Brian, just real quick, I'm going to listen to you, but I'm going to simultaneously fill my water bottle, which I failed to do during the break. So I apologize for walking away.
So, yeah, last year you reviewed and approved the parking demand study, and we've been working with Vice Mayor Peterson and Councilmember Cici with the Infrastructure Committee, which has been helpful on integrating the recommendations of this study. But one of the main purposes, obviously, of changing the meters is to modernize. So we're not just coin-based. It takes a tremendous amount of time to collect the coins and to keep those old meters going. And but it's also, more importantly, it's inconvenient for visitors to, people just don't have quarters and they have to go to a business to get change. And, really the purpose of the meters is not to raise revenue. It's a parking management strategy so that people aren't staying at the same prime parking spot all day long. It's just kind of an encouragement to allow those prime spaces to be made available to visitors and shoppers and people coming to restaurants. So this would allow other forms of payment. So you'd be able to pay with credit card, phone app like Apple Pay, and then there would be QR codes on signs. So you wouldn't even have to go to the kiosk to pay. You could use the QR code and do it from your phone, and you can add time to your meter from the restaurant using your phone. So it's just we've waited a long time to modernize our meters. Now there's a lot of options out there. So this would take us to just the newest options available that are just what people are more commonly used to that are coming to town from the city. So it's a pilot project. There is cost involved, and I think, you know, this would be just the first step. And if it goes well, we'd come back in 3 months and talk about replacing the rest of the meters with either kiosks or standalone double bay meters on the poles. We're gonna, with this pilot project, we're proposing to do both. We'll do a kiosk at the Commercial Street lot and then do 5 of the pole-mounted meters with this trial project. And so we're here to take any questions, and Shane's more familiar with meter management than I am. Takes a lot of our time.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for that. We'll go to the public first, and then we'll come back to the table. Any public comment in the room on this item?
I have a couple of thoughts. I wanted to state in terms of the lighting that accessibility to me is much more important than historical accuracy or historical representation. So people being able to move about safely in the parking lot at night, to me, takes precedent over getting lights that would fit the historic. Yeah, just wanted to say that. In terms of the meters, I want to acknowledge that it's a lot of work to collect all the coins, but the coins are very important. Having something that is strictly analog is not accessible to everyone. Not everyone has a smartphone. Not everyone has a debit card or a credit card, so having the coin option is really important. I also wanted to say, from my perspective, the QR code kiosk thing is super stressful to me. I struggle with executive function and like figuring out the steps of new things, especially if I don't have time to prepare. I like look up places before I drive to them so I know what they're gonna look like. So the kiosks can be really hard, and I feel like a lot of the systems are like a little bit different. So even if you learn one system, you haven't learned all of them. And it has deterred me from going places. When I've had 2 times in the past week that I've gone out of town somewhere that had the QR codes, and you know, like for some people, I'm sure that is much easier. For people like me, it is much harder and much more difficult to navigate, and has led to me being so frustrated that I just leave. And I'm like, whatever, I just can't do this. It's like triggering to me. So I just wanted to share that, but the most important thing to me is that coins, I feel, have to stay. Not everyone has the same payment methods, and not everyone is modernizing it in the same way or at the same pace. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, yeah, I like the lights, and I don't like the new meters. I think it's a good thing to inconvenience people to have to go into a local business to get change or withdraw cash while they're here. Cash is good for the local economy. These apps, it all gets sucked up way quicker when it's not in a physical form. And it's job security.
Thank you. Jesus, I have enough of that. Enough work.
I do want to ask a question about the lights, because we had the problems at the lights at the park. That's the same issue. Are we using the same lights? No.
So yeah.
Okay, so that would be another question. And I think the kiosk is a great idea. And from my understanding is we can use coins at the kiosk. So it's kind of covering the whole gamut, which is great. And we tried to do this 6 years ago and got knocked down. So yes, it's a good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Any other thoughts? Okay, at the table. Okay, I would love to go to the infrastructure committee and the folks that have been focused on parking. Lou and Gary.
We have been working on this for 2 years, and I'm happy to see that it's finally going to be happening. I do have a few questions. One of them is, does the app take any kind of cut of the amount of money that we collect from the parking meters?
Yeah, there's a monthly fee for the management system, and it's $13 per meter per month. So that's something that would be negotiable if we were to do more meters, but that price is based on this pilot project.
Good. And Shane, can you give an estimate about how much time it takes you to collect and count the coins?
So again,
Shane, do you mind, Mike, just so folks at home can definitely hear?
and just so you know, as we're moving forward, we're staying right where we're at. So it'll still have coins. It'll still have everything that you need to make it convenient. But it's good to move forward. So what was the question again? I'm sorry.
How much time does it take you to collect and count the coins?
So every 2 weeks or every week, it depends on if we have venues going on in town. That's kind of how we structure the coin pickup. And it's probably man hours is about 10 hours a week, and then picking up coins, taking them to the bank, counting them in a counter that is so antiquated that we can't find another counter. And I get that McKay is going to take a cut, but so would Coinstar if we got to start using Coinstar. Because truly, that's where we're at. We fixed this machine to count these coins. I don't know how many times I can't solder anything together anymore. We're at that point. We do use McKay already, but the McKay software in some of these, we've kind of robbed Peter to pay Paul. And we're out of Paul. So that's kind of where we're at.
I take away from that that we would actually be saving money using
bingo
these apps as opposed to paying you to count coins and fix old machines.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good.
I'd like a motion to have Shane come answer more questions during city council meetings.
Yeah.
We love it. So
Thank you, Lou, for good questions.
So a couple of things. I'll start with the lights. Councilmember Cici and I did discover these lights at the League of City conference, and I did spend a fair amount of time. In fact, I had been to the hometown of the Frenchman. But the thing about these lights is really important is these you dig a hole and stick it in the ground. It doesn't have the trenching. If it doesn't work, you take it out. But they are incredibly low profile. I looked at them in Denver this week, because you can't, I knew they were there, and what are you going to do, right? Visit streetlights because you're a public works person.
Will you say more about what you mean by low profile?
They're very flat on the top. They have a pole that blends, and the head itself, there's not boxy. In fact, they have a model that they've recommended for historic districts. That's freaking hideous, really boxy and like a fake lantern thing. But these are very saucer-like, very flat. Planning Commission liked them a lot. And when you look at them, you see the light. You don't see the light standard, and that's what I mean by that. Cool. But as we look at this, and we did this work, and we, with the survey that was done with the community, the number one issue was safety in parking lots at night. And, we need to look at this one because that, lots of people like to party in that parking lot, and the more lights, the better. And because it does feel unsafe if you're not familiar with it. And then, if they work there, we'll be looking over at the lot over on Nevada Street because there's no lights over there to speak of.
It is.
It is scary. And so that's a very important part, but these lights give us a lot of flexibility, and we're going to test them out. This is the thing. This is not a lot of money for lights like this. If you did the trenching and everything else, you'd be in tens of thousands of dollars to get those lights installed. So we need to see how these work, and that's good. In terms of the parking kiosk, I might disagree with our public works director or our city engineer that parking meters are not for revenue. Parking meters are for revenue, or we wouldn't have them. I mean, it's true.
Certainly not historic.
But we wouldn't have them. But we have to offset the cost of maintenance and cars on our streets, and this is another way that we do it. What we discovered when we knew, and if you live a life of parking and this sort of thing, you learn that it's not about capacity as much as it is about management of parking. One of the other things that was so important that we discovered, there's no signage. There was one little sign on York Street that said parking.
Yeah.
So, when you think about managing parking, people have to know where to go. And so we're, with new signage and like putting our parking maps on Google Maps and stuff, we can actually get people to parking. How many times have you guys stood out on the street when somebody from the Bay Area says, oh my God, this thing takes quarters. Where do I get those? You say, oh, we have a contract with the Chamber of Commerce. They're required to give out quarters. Great, where's that?
And are they open?
And are they open? And then, our businesses, it is a burden for our businesses to give out quarters to people for parking lots. People get, asked that a lot. It also, though, more importantly, it reduces staffing. One of the few leverage points we have in our community with the staff that we have, Shane has no shortage of work, and none of his people have any shortage of work. There's plenty for them to do, but to leverage technology to reduce man hours on simple tasks that can be handled with technology. These tasks work very well. I used my app from San Luis Obispo in Boulder, Colorado the other day, and it's very much the same kind of app. So once you get it, you can use it. You can also easily adjust the cost, but you collect a lot of data about your parking, about time of use. And all of this will inform further decisions about the parking that we make. So it's a really good idea. I did see the signs were mentioned here too, which is very important. So we did commit to the parking study. We approved it as a council, and this is some great first steps to see if this is what really works. And the idea with all of this is that none of it has to stay if it doesn't work, and we can adjust as we go and build that as we go. So I think I'm a big fan because it's something we really need to deal with.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Gary.
I just love that we're doing a pilot project and seeing what it is before going all in. I think that's it's just as long as the lights can reach Dan Reinhardt's house, that's all I can. No, I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah, it was, Sean, you'd know, when we did the strategic planning and talking to folks, was it fire, housing, and then parking for those three? Right?
Those were the big three.
Yeah.
So parking got lumped into the term we call infrastructure, but 90% of what the respondents that got into infrastructure was parking related.
Yeah, and all of this sounds like this is what people were asking for. The parking situation downtown and people being frustrated that, like, who has quarters anymore? I drive around with a roll of quarters just in case, but I also recognize that I'm a freak. So the fact that we'd be trying these meters that take coins, that take bills, that take cards, and you can use an app, like, outstanding. I know personally tons of people who don't feel safe in the commercial street lot at night. People who work downtown and desperately hope that they get out of their shops before it gets dark. So these lights sound great. I look forward to seeing them. Gary's enthusiasm fills me with excitement.
Can I just say one more thing, Mayor? Of course. The other thing, what the study told us was that we don't have a parking problem. I think Gary might have touched on this. We have a parking management problem. So the signage is something that we've desperately needed. So it's a great part. So.
And if I may, Madam Mayor, I didn't hit on that when we were talking, but it is in the staff report. The recommendation from staff that we discussed briefly with the infrastructure committee is 12 locations for directional parking signs. We have one up, it's across the street at York. There's really only two different versions of parking signs. There's the P that's green, or there's the black that says parking. So we have the black that says parking because it matches our street signs are white and black. So this is a similar sign. if that sign ends up being acceptable, we'll end up deploying those parking signs everywhere. To the Vice Mayor's point, all of our parking lots have never been on Apple Maps or Google Maps or anything else. They all are now. What the Nevada Street lot shows as temporarily closed. And then once we get the Stone House paved, which they will be doing some underground work in that parking lot next week, that will show up as well. And that is courtesy of staff at the Chamber of Commerce. So thank you, Lynn, for getting all of our parking lots in Apple Maps and on Google Maps. I think that identified the two things. Thank you.
Excellent. Just want to thank Lou and Gary as the Infrastructure Committee and city staff for making this happen. It's been a long time coming, as you said, 2 years. Just another example of how long it takes to move things through government. And to Doug's point, I too appreciate that this is a pilot program and we can assess how it goes. Did we say what the length of when we're going to revisit this?
90 days, so.
90 days.
We hope to be back to the council by the first meeting in October, so sometime with infrastructure in between there. One other thing, sorry for the go back, that will be in that is bicycle parking. There's nothing in this tonight, but Brewbilt has 8 bicycle parking spots on their private property that was built as part of their design. As part of that project, they also had to secure 4 additional bicycle parking. They've purchased the items. They'll be installed on York Street near Lika's against the fence where people already park bicycles anyway. Lisa, again, is a avid bicyclist and just a great advocate for mobility in the community, and we'll be bringing back as part of that 90-day package an opportunity for the least expensive of all things we would do would be additional bicycle parking throughout town.
Excellent. That's an important addition. Thanks for being an advocate, Lisa. And thanks for that, Sean. Excuse me. I appreciate the public comment that offered the idea that we should keep coins because it's also an accessibility issue. You know, I always thought of it the other way around, like not having coins, but I really do think it goes both ways. So I'm glad to hear that there is the option of both. And also, I do like the idea of people going into businesses to ask for quarters. It does get them in the shop. It does get them potentially spending money. The reality is not a lot of shops are stocked in quarters to offer. The shops know now that they can, or many of the shops know that they can send them to the Chamber of Commerce. So I do think there's a little bit of a both and on all of these things, and we need to keep that in mind as we move forward. Other than that, I'm looking for a motion to authorize the 2 purchases and authorize the city manager to execute any contracts or related documents.
So moved.
Second.
Excellent. And with that, Gabby, can we get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Cece?
Yes.
Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
Councilmember Fleming?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Peterson?
Yes.
Mayor Fernandez?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Great. Thank you so much, everybody. Well done. Long time coming. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Sean, for that one. And Shane as well. Thank you. Yeah. Somebody get this guy a bag of chips and a beer. I just feel like, and I'm going to come join you on the couch. Me too. I got my flannel on. All right, number 11, consideration of the recommendations of the Strategic Initiative Business Committee related to A-frame signs. Sean, tell us more.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On February 20th of this year, the Nevada State Chamber of Commerce sent me a letter, sent the city a letter. Their board took a position on A-frame signage in the downtown. Their position included that the chamber advocate for a proposal to the city council that the sign ordinance, which is 17.680.080, specifically the historic district, be amended to define an application process for approving qualified sidewalk signs and locations. It included more than that. The letter is in the packet, but that's the title. On March 19th, we took that item to the business committee. A-frame signs are either prohibited or there's not a mechanism to approve them depending on which section of our municipal code you're talking about. So the city zoning ordinance, which is Title 17, does prohibit the use of sandwich board or A-frame signs in the historic district, with one exception. For horse and carriage businesses, they can have one double-sided sign where their parking spot is. We have a designated parking spot. If you open a business, you too can have it for the low price of $3,000 a year. There's one at the top of Broad and one at the bottom of Broad. They're currently not used, of course, which is unfortunate because I loved riding in that carriage. But so essentially, there's nothing that allows for the use of A-frame signs on private property in the historic district. That's the zoning ordinance. Similarly, street sidewalks and public places is Title 12. That there's nothing in there that would allow the city engineer or anyone else to issue an encroachment permit for the placement of A-frame signs on public property on the sidewalks, which is where you see most of them go. We do have an encroachment permit process for sidewalk dining and for parklets, but neither one of those allow for signage either. So there's essentially no way that A-frame signs could be allowed on public or private property without change to the municipal code. Any revision like that would require robust accounting for ADA compliance. I would note that many of the A-frame signs that we see out there, and Chief Foss and code enforcement have been making advisory visits to folks, trying to, share what's legal today, what's not legal today, asking them to move them. We have been, pretty assertive in the ones that are in crosswalks and are blocking the road and blocking, ADA path of travel. But the other ones were, sharing the information, telling them where they're going, saying it's coming to the council meeting for consideration. But generally speaking, you need 48 inches of clear path of travel for ADA. That can be neck down for certain distances and a variety of other things. Nonetheless, that's kind of where it is. Our standard for sidewalk dining is 54 inches of clear span or clear path of travel. The reason for that is because we don't want to encroach on path of travel by someone just pushing their chair out temporarily, or so that's anything from someone with a visual impairment, someone in a wheelchair or an assisted mobility device, could be someone walking with their stroller or their dog. There's lots of opportunity to need a little bit more space. So anything that could be done would have to consider those kind of things. The written recommendations from the committee are from Councilmember Ceci in the staff report. I recommend against the Chamber's proposal. Adding a periodically updated list of exceptions to the signage ordinance would add a layer of complexity to an already complexly regulated historic district. The existing ordinances should be enforced as is. As always, he writes so much better than me.
And the rest of us.
And the rest of us, yeah. And then similarly well-written and differing in opinion from Councilmember Klein. I recommend a targeted change to the municipal code to allow, in the few business locations where it would make sense, A-frames that don't interfere with the public right-of-way with ample ADA clearance that conform to the accepted look of the downtown area. A-frames were used historically, and there's a place for them to be used in a way that wouldn't impede pedestrian traffic or distract from the look of the buildings. Those businesses in locations that would allow for such a use ought to have the option of employing A-frames made from historic materials, wood, steel, slate, etc., in a way that enhances the appearance of the downtown area while attracting customers to their businesses. There was public attendance at the meeting and public comment given. There was also public comment provided in writing to the business committee. There was a split. There was business owners advocating for the use of the A-frame signs, and there was in the room, and those and the chamber as well, and then those advocating against A-frame signs in their entirety. The written public comment was opposed to A-frame signs. And
just for clarity, Sean, were there business owners that opposed the A-frame sign?
There were no business owners at the business committee meeting that were opposed to A-frame signs.
Got it. Just asking for that bit of clarification.
But there was only one business owner So that's why I can remember. And thank you, Rudy, for attending. So from the chocolate shop in the New York hotel. So with that, staff would request that you have a discussion with the business committee on their recommendations and what came about from the business committee, and provide me direction should you desire to make a change or leave the status quo.
Great, thank you, Sean. We're going to open this up to the room. Any public comment in the room on this item?
We also have the one online.
Oh, yeah, actually, Dan, please feel free to come to the podium. We're going to take, or wait, we're going to take one public comment online. I apologize for that. We have Lindsay from Freed providing public comment on this item. Gabby, do you have Lindsay for us?
And Madam Mayor, the reason that we generally have a policy of no Zoom comments, just for the record, we had a request for an ADA accommodation, which is the reason we're permitting this exception this time.
Excellent, thank you, Dean.
Okay, Lindsay, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Hi, Lindsay. Yes, we can hear you. Welcome.
Thank you. And thank you for the accommodation. My name is Lindsay Wells. I'm the community advocate at Freed Center for Independent Living. Thank you for the opportunity to weigh in on this issue that greatly affects the Nevada City community. Freed is asking for 5 feet, no less than 4 feet of clearance to move on the sidewalk for people with wheelchairs and other mobility devices. If so that there won't be any barriers. I wanted to bring up also that I am the community advocate for Grass Valley as well, and we have also suggested this to them as well. So we thank you for this opportunity to suggest this, and also as a person that uses a wheelchair, I have a request that when we're thinking about the walkways and the sidewalks and the commercial pedestrian walkway, people can just walk up on the curb and access the shops from the just walking up on the curb. But if you're in a wheelchair, go to either end of the street to get onto these curbs. And this is becoming more difficult for our community of disabled folks. So I just want to thank you again for the accommodation, the reasonable accommodation today. And I wanted to also thank you all for listening and understanding where we're coming from as a community. Thank you and have a good night.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Lindsay, for that important comment. And Daniel, welcome.
Mayor, excuse me. Mayor, council members, staff. I'm Daniel Ketchum, President, Nevada County Historical Society. We have about 415 plus members right now, so I'm hopefully speaking for many of them. Many live in Nevada City. I'm here again, as I do several times a year, it seems like, protecting and defending the Historic District Ordinance that, by the way, was adopted way back in August of 1968. There have been very few changes to the Historic District, only really changes to the bolster and strengthen the ordinance. I'm citing back to the story of Nevada City Historical District by Bill Weatherall, September of '96, where he says, Ordinance 88-08 adopted June 27, 1988. The sign provisions were amended so as to prohibit sandwich board or A-board signs, which were not contemplated when the ordinance was originally enacted. Again, an example of one of the few changes where it was bolstering the ordinance. A signs were not in use then, and they weren't historic in use. So the signers of this ordinance just didn't feel it was appropriate, but later on they were concerned about it. Signboards will diminish the historic district street view, unquestionably. It will alter that historic view. My suggestion is let's not meddle with an original ordinance that has served the city so very well. And I want to quote Bill Weatherall one more time where he said, the longer it goes unchanged, the ordinance, the longer it goes unchanged, the stronger it will become. Let's not change it yet. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel.
In 1988, Senator Lowell Weicker of Connecticut and Senator Tom Harkin of Iowa introduced legislation that later became the Americans with Disabilities Act. They were joined by Representatives Tony Coelho of California and Silvio Conte of Massachusetts as they testified about discrimination based on disabilities in a rare joint session of both the House and Senate. I'm telling you this because by that time, Nevada City was already addressing the needs of the disabled. In 1981, after proclaiming the National Year of the Disabled, we helped form the Nevada County Committee for the Disabled, which was the forerunner of FREED. We actually chartered FREED out of the Nevada County Committee for the Disabled. By 1988, we were already marking spaces for disabled parking and doing curb cuts. Nevada City was helping lead the way. Looking forward to the inevitable passage of the ADA, I formed a committee to survey the needs of the disabled. Terry Ann Straw from Flume's End and David Ayala represented the visually impaired. Tony Sauer, a paraplegic, Tom Lott, who has MS, Bill Dargy, a quadriplegic, and Bob Watson, a paraplegic, were on the committee, and we walked and rolled over whatever parts of the historical district we could. We had the city council try traversing it in wheelchairs and with blindfolds. What was discovered was that A-board signs and things hanging off of the fronts of the businesses created the most difficult obstacles to getting around and enjoying our town. Shortly thereafter, the sign ordinance was amended by the city council to include a prohibition on A-boards, or otherwise known as sandwich board signs. We are a welcoming town. We should be doing everything possible to make our town welcoming to those with mobility and visual challenges. The challenge of COVID, for which the ordinance was put in abeyance, is over, but for people with disabilities, their challenges don't ever go away. Why go backward? Why even consider adding to those challenges that mobility impaired and visually impaired individuals face? Additionally, allowing A-boards in some locations while others are prohibited will lead to an unequitable ordinance. Will also lead to confusion as business owners see a sign out and think it's okay for them to put one out also, and the resulting increase in staff time policing them. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Lori Oberholzer, 310 Nevada Street. Great points, Kathy. I guess I'm here to talk about the aesthetic issues. It's an ADA issue, but also an aesthetic issue. You know, the Planning Commission works, so much of their work is dealing with sign applications, and they just do a great job of it. And it really makes a difference in our town that they're uniform and that they match our historic ambiance, and it keeps the clutter down to have the kinds of signs that the Planning Commission is approving and that are envisioned in the historic ordinance and the sign ordinance. So I guess I'm just here to say I think the A-boards would just clutter up that wonderful work they've been doing. And, you know, even if you allowed A-boards outside of the ADA area that's required to be A-board free, you know, the problem is they're still there, and people can still trip on them, and they can still sue the city, and they're still going to create clutter. So I just think I think our existing ordinance, you know, works fine the way it is. The flags as an alternative, again, I think that's just creating more clutter. It'll compete with the beautiful signs that the Planning Commission is working so hard on. And I guess I'd like you to just visualize. I was at the beginning of the meeting when I was at home watching. There's a beautiful picture of downtown with the snow at Christmas with the little red flags. And imagine if there were flags of all different kinds and colors floating, from a lot of the businesses competing with our beautiful wild and scenic sign flag look and the Christmas look, and all of the different flags that we use in a coordinated way throughout the year. So I guess I'd just like to see you leave the ordinance alone. It's doing a good job. It's time to get rid of the A boards, and I hope the city will start enforcing the ordinance again. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori.
Diana Gamzon, I work here in Nevada City, and I've seen I fully support ensuring that ADA compliance is being met on our city sidewalks and in our streets as the #1 priority. I also think that there are some properties where I think the A-frames look very tasteful. And in fact, I think they add a lot to our city by showing different offerings of the business, whatever it may be. There's some of our businesses which are set back. For many years, I was at the top of Broad Street, and well, we actually didn't want any visitors to my office unless they were scheduled. We were around many businesses that were really trying to attract street traffic. And so I think that there are some properties where it makes sense. I would be supportive of one of the options that's in the staff agenda for the city planner to look at maps to see where compliance with A-frames could make sense. I also, for the same reason of some of these businesses that are set back, I like some of the flags that have been placed. I don't see an overabundance of flags at all. I see that it's in some of our businesses where you really can tell if it's open or not, like Choquero at the top of Broad Street. And I also think as a long-term solution, and when there is proper funding, that it may make sense to have some signage that's posted on the sides of buildings that shows arrows like, Likas is down this way, and Remedy Garden, and, Elixir, just kind of showing some of our areas where there's other businesses that don't get as much foot traffic as a long-term option. Thanks.
Thank you, Diana.
So Erin Manette, and I'm wearing a different hat. I'm on the Board of Freed. So I'm here to address that this is an issue for wheelchairs and people with disabilities. And during the COVID situation, there were a lot of signs out. And I have this image of every business having an A-frame, and people, it was hard to get around, even for people walking up and down the street. I kind of like her idea about maybe addressing some of the businesses that are set off, finding a way to acknowledge those businesses without an A-frame. Our sidewalks aren't that huge. So I would like you to consider, so everybody can come to Nevada City. And also, we have a great sign ordinance. I do like it, and I don't think we need to really change it. We did make an adjustment for COVID, but COVID's over. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Any other public comment in the room? All right. So I'd like to hear first from Lou and Adam. We heard a little bit in the report, both of your contrasting recommendations. Would love to hear a little more from you guys, and yeah, anything you'd like to say about the process or how you came to your recommendation. Would love to hear that. Would be super helpful.
Okay. We have been tweaking around the existing sign ordinances for a couple of years, and I think I am in favor of stopping that. I would like to see the lighting ordinances enforced, the signage ordinance is enforced, and I think once we have that really enforced, the businesses will prosper just as much as they would with or without the A-frames. There are businesses that are difficult to discover. I do not think A-frames are the way to solve that problem.
Just out of curiosity, I'm going to ask you, any ideas on how we might be able to? And I know that's a little bit off topic, but it's related.
Yeah. Take a look at the corner of Bost and Searle. There's a pole there with shingles listing the businesses that are down Bost. We could do the same thing at York and Broad.
Thanks, Lou, for that.
I fully agree. I think that's a great idea. I think of York and Broad, just a simple sign that says more restaurants and shops this way, and people would go, there are, and discover some amazing things. One thing that our recommendations very much have in common is there's no negotiating around the ADA statutes. That's first and foremost the consideration, which to me just automatically limits the number of places where A-frames could reasonably go. I don't see a danger of cluttering our beautiful downtown when there's so few places where the sidewalk is large enough. I would be interested in seeing, I don't know how easy that would be for Lisa, but to find out how many places would it even be plausible to put an A-frame sign and not impede the right-of-way whatsoever. I think it just by its nature would be limited, and these businesses have spoken to us and told us that they do find them helpful, especially when they're set back. And as it was said, Rudy from the Truffle Shop came, and that building in particular, there's a little bit of, I'm trying to think, Gary, what would you call it? Alcove. Gary worked in the alcove business for 35 years.
Overexperienced again.
Yeah, you could tuck one in there and not be anyone's way, but people walking by would notice it and go, "Oh, there's truffles in there," and then they'd find out that those truffles are delicious. Yeah, so that's my thought. The ADA stuff is non-negotiable, obviously and rightfully, but I think doing it one size fits all when there are a few businesses who could benefit and it wouldn't impact the look of downtown, and we could have some pretty artful signs using materials that would fit in with the buildings and augment the look. I think, to me, that's worthwhile. I don't think the Chamber's suggestion is unreasonable. And one of our strategic objectives is to work with the Chamber of Commerce for citywide business support, and that would fall here.
Thank you, Adam. Gary and Doug.
Gary, go right ahead.
Yeah, what
He's so generous to
time?
me.
All right. A couple thoughts on this. First of all, I'm not in favor of changing the ordinance, and it comes from a differing perspective, which was touched on by someone barely, but it's about trip and fall, and that's my whole public works hat thing. You got to live through a few of those to understand what that really means and what it can cost your city. So I'm very concerned about that and have been, particularly noting the proliferation of A-frames when you would see one or two, and now, everybody feels like they got to have one. So I don't support that change. I'm not going to go in to how distasteful I find the Chamber's recommendation, which is city, you go decide who gets to and who doesn't, because it's not. There's a fairness piece here. So I won't support that. I do and have done and think a lot about directory signs, a way of a single sign noticing the location of other businesses. I also I hear there's a map out there that tells people where businesses are, although I've never seen it. But how are those distributed? Things that give information to people about how to locate our businesses. And these are things that don't create trip and fall hazards. So I can't support the change in this. And certainly there is an exception to everything. We have the mechanism. I'm going to watch the attorney while I say this, but we can pretty much find a proven exception to anything if we do it the right way.
Except ADA.
Except ADA, and I'm not talking about it, and ADA is not on the table. No, I get that. ADA is not on the table. But if you have somebody that's got a recessed alcove off the street, and I get exactly what you're talking about, the cappuccino, the chocolate cappuccino place down at the York Hotel. So there might be, but I would not want to change the ordinance to accomplish that. I think we could find, there are ways we can find exceptions through that if it makes sense, and then it would come to us and it would be on a case-by-case basis. But I don't want to get into who gets to have them and who doesn't, because the other thing I want to say to our businesses too, and I'm sorry, and it's the same thing with the lit signs and everything else. This does not make the difference in whether your business lives or dies. The quality of service and what you provide is what makes the difference. And you signed on to the location and you signed on to the ordinance when you opened a business. And we need to respect that and we need to protect that. I get it. I know it's hard. I know it's hard, but an A-frame will not make the difference that you need. So that's where I am with it.
Gary, thank you. Can we take a minute, Sean and Gary, to go down a theoretical road? You were talking about exceptions, how that could look, and what that process would look like. Can we talk?
Well, we could do an encroachment permit on a one-off basis. Is that not true? Without violating the ordinance? Would that be the appropriate mechanism?
If you're talking about like at the New York Hotel, that's on private property.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the mechanism that is available within Title 17 would be a variance. It'd be a variance
Very
from
right.
the standards of the code. You'd have to have proof of a hardship,
Finding.
and then a finding, and then it's a discretionary approval of the Planning Commission.
Okay. So there are, that's probably not the only way forward.
It's not the only, but that is kind
more
of the
traditional,
standard one.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So there are tools.
Okay.
You know, I didn't understand the sign ordinance when we were dealing with it a while back, and then I saw the street with all the neon signs from the 70s and how gaudy it looked, and I immediately got it, you know. You know, we have an ordinance for a reason. You know, like Gary said, two things, you know, liability, and that's always a concern of mine. And then the equity issue, you can't give some people some, sure, your place is tucked away behind there, you know, find other solutions that don't involve putting A-frames on the street. You know, it's just a hard no for me. I don't have to go into it.
Great. Thanks, Doug. I don't think I've ever heard you say I don't want to go into it.
Well, we've already gone into it.
It's a night of firsts.
We've already gone into it.
Yeah, I appreciate everybody's perspective. I appreciate both Lou and Adam's thoughtful perspective on this. Also agree that ADA is uncompromisable, and also the law. I hear that this is, in addition to being an ADA issue, also an aesthetic issue. I really appreciate, recently I got a series of photos and texts of the multiple signs around town as a sort of collection, and it was really lovely to see them all in that montage. I do think our Planning Commission and the ordinance does a really, really good job at signs. That's something that I would never have understood before now. And so I appreciate that. I have a fundamental issue with safety, of course, is first, ADA is first. I do have an issue with what seems like potentially prioritizing aesthetics over supporting businesses. And I know that it's not that black or white. I get that. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I think I would like for us to find a way to support those businesses that are out of the way, that are a little more locationally challenged. I hear you, Gary, you're right. It's that they signed on to that location, but also if nobody filled the businesses in more off the beaten track locations, then we'd have, you know, a half empty town. And so I really, really would like to see us support businesses in whatever creative ways we can. I don't know what that looks like. That's why I asked, you know, follow-up questions.
I think the directional signs and maps and that sort of thing is something that needs to be explored.
Yeah, and I think, I think it's great that you can get a map at the Chamber of Commerce. But also, how great would it be if that map was available at Three Forks and Communal Cafe, right? Which are places
And
that
online.
people are constantly going into, and online and that sort of thing. And I'm sure that's something, maybe they are.
The Chamber's
Actually,
working
I imagine
Seven
if-
Hills and downtown.
I imagine if the parking is getting online, then that is too. So I hope with all these efforts, the businesses feel supported, because that is an initiative. I don't know that we need to change the ordinance to do that. I do appreciate everybody's work on this, and I just want the businesses to know that, I want us to commit to really finding some creative solutions to this, instead of just, well, you signed on, make it work. Yeah, that's it. Let's see, I've got the packet pulled up. Let me go back to.
That's what we do now.
All right, we've provided direction. Does that sound accurate? We're not looking for any sort of motion here, right?
Not unless you want to make one. So if you wanted to change the municipal code, I'd need your, I need you to vote and provide me that direction. But I've heard what you said. We'll certainly, the item earlier was talking about parking and the signs that we'll put in. We will relook at kind of the history of that York Street sign many people in the room have been here much longer than me, but for at least the last 40 years, we've had a sign there at York Street. It used to be two-way traffic, but that said shops this way, and other wooden signs of various types. So we'll look at kind of the history there of pointing people towards Commercial Street and other places, and see if there are any of those opportunities that you discussed this evening, and we will refrain from the rest on the code.
Great. Thank you so much to Lindsay and Aaron from Freed. Thank you to the Historical Society for weighing in on this, important voices in the community on this issue. And with that, we're going to move to reports and future agenda items. Sean, do you have a manager's report for us?
Briefly, last Wednesday, we had the budget workshop. Thank you to the council. We're going to be advancing a whole bunch of things on behalf of the community in this next budget year. If you didn't see it, it's online for your view. Council will consider adopting that budget on June 12th. Thank you again to Lisa sitting over there we now have an e-bike program for employees at City Hall. So if you see either a black e-bike or a white e-bike, because we have one of each color, with a little Nevada City seal running around town, it's available for our staff to use instead of driving vehicles around to do a lot of our activities, especially as the weather is getting nice. So that is one step towards future programming that hopefully will allow people to commute by e-bike funded through grants and take up less parking in the downtown on a daily basis. So.
I cannot wait to see Gabby on that bike.
Gabby opted out until she wears flats instead
Gabby,
of heels.
the white one.
Unless they come with heels, I'm not wearing flat shoes, like bicycle shoes.
If I had a bicycle
They're called
rack,
tennis
I could
shoes.
ride.
I don't do flat shoes.
If I had someplace to park my bicycle, I'd probably ride it in.
Yes, park at Brewbill, park across York Street when we install those, park down the wonderful Black Bart purpose-made bicycle stand by the DA's office, and coming to you soon, more bicycle parking. Last thing I have for you, we had at a previous council meeting discussion on the components of a future single-use disposable ordinance. We had a meeting in conjunction with the chamber right here in council chambers to discuss that with local food vendors. It was clear from the attendance there, we have a long way to go to engage those folks. We're releasing a survey in conjunction with the chamber to all of our local food vendors. Those that don't respond to that are going to get a visit from Evan, because he's much nicer than me. And so he is nicer than everyone. And eventually we'll take all that information back to the business committee to start to develop that. And that is all I have this evening, Madam Mayor.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Council members, who's got what? Doug, let's start with you.
Oh, well, I have something that my dear colleague Adam and I were at. We had the Recreation and Parks and Recreation Committee meeting that was sort of talking about the skate park, but talked about a lot of other things. We had a good, healthy representation from the neighbors who were concerned about people going up Reward Street and parking there and all kinds of things that could happen. We kind of educated them that that wasn't going to be the case. Where the skate park was projected to be. And you have to realize that Chris is donating some land, and he sort of said, hey, here's a piece of land that can work. And then the school, of course, said, no, we don't want to be that close to our school, and we might end up monitoring it. So Chris and I drove around in his little ATV and found another spot for the skate park. So we will not piss off the school, we will not piss off the neighbors, as is our job.
I can't wait to find out who we will piss.
Somebody, maybe Holt Ballet. No, I talked to Miss Holt, she's okay about it. But yeah, so that's pretty much all I have.
Thanks, Doug. Adam, what about you?
Lou and I were up in the beautiful American Hill neighborhood for the plaque dedication for the Carter family. Supervisor Hall was there. It was great. The Nevada County Historical Landmarks Commission did a beautiful job, and I'm thrilled that it's there. I growing up here, heard very specific stories about the city's past, focused on a very specific time and about very specific people. And I'm heartened to know that more stories are going to be told from here on out. And beyond that, exciting news, downtown's got Victorian Christmas, downtown's got summer nights, downtown's now got the Earth Day thing. Seven Hills is having its first ever event this weekend on Saturday from 10 to 4. And it sounds like it's expansive, and I hope people show up for it because a lot's going to be going on. Is it the Seven Hills parking lot jam?
Yeah, I think that's, it's at the, where is it? Is it Elevation side?
Elevations parking lot, of Earth and Salt's parking lot, and then just generally, yeah, Argyle.
Three events in one.
Yeah.
Great.
So three events in one. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they pull off. But like, imagine you could go to the first Victorian Christmas. Pretty good bragging rights is all I'm saying. This is the first Seven Hills parking lot jam. I can't imagine that name will stick.
That's not a bad thing.
But Diana, is there anything interesting in particular about what's happening?
The very first cannabis farmers market held in Seven Hills at Elevation. I'm really excited about it. Meet the local farmers, learn about their strains, growing practices, and buy the Elevation.
There you go.
I thought you were going to say.
So that's this Saturday.
I will be there representing the food bank at a table somewhere. Probably not in Elevation, but somewhere on Argyle.
Well,
I will.
they have food.
Yeah, I
Thank
don't
you,
think
Adam.
we want to distribute
Gary,
that
what
food.
have you got?
I don't have a lot. I just wanted to report. I recently spent my springtime touring multiple states, and I'm really impressed with our cannabis regulations in California. When you go to Denver or you go to parts of Arizona, man, every freaking corner has got a cannabis dispensary. It's really interesting. I don't know how they do it, but you literally, driving through Denver, will see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dispensaries. So
They have to live up to their name as the Mile High City.
yeah, well, they do. But it was just interesting to note. But I think I'll just, it's springtime, and I'm really happy because the flowers are coming up everywhere, and it's really cool. I'm good.
Great. Thank you, Gary.
Adam stole my thunder, so I'll just do a list of things that are coming up for me. Pioneer Energy is having its meeting tomorrow in Rockland. I'll be attending that for us.
Committee, yes.
Yep. The Transit Services Committee and the Nevada County Transit Commission have their meeting on Wednesday of next week. Fire Safety Advisory Committee is then on Thursday, and on Monday the 20th, the Chamber of Commerce. So this is just proof of what you said about how many hours we spend not just in council meetings. The other thing I'd like to say is that I'm really happy with the way we conducted the meeting tonight and how we managed disagreement and to stay civil and respect each other's opinions. That was really nice to see.
Excellent. Excellent.
Thank you, Lou.
I disagree completely.
You would.
Yeah.
That's the most aggressive I've ever seen you.
I know.
I know, right? It was a little,
That was
little
frightening.
scary.
That's right.
Adam, you scared me.
You scared me.
Good.
Wow. All right. Evan is definitely nicer than Adam.
Motion?
Garrett, no.
She's
Not
got it.
yet. Gary and I continued to meet with our facilitators from the Consensus Building Institute. It is a slow process. There was some travel that prevented both Gary and I from being able to move forward on work. Talked to Sean, our city manager, and one of our facilitators, Dorit, about having a page on the city website to create like an information landing page to have some transparency about our process and keep the public updated on it. As I mentioned before, unfortunately, this process is not going to move as quickly as folks wanted to, myself included, but we are committed to the process. Gary and I have got some work to do this week, and we hope to be able to reach out to stakeholders with calendar invites next week. So things are moving. I personally apologize for the delay on that. Now that we're getting paid, maybe
Get on it.
maybe we can move a little faster. I'm kidding, but it does make a difference. I tell people, I'm like, I don't really have the capacity to respond to most of my emails because I have to prioritize my paying job. Now I guess I'm gonna have to respond to some of those emails. I look forward to it. That's all I have. Looking for a motion.
I'm so moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Hey.
Excellent. Good night.